Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 2, Episode 17 of the Campus Gridiron Podcast. It's about that time of year. Once again, we have reached Army versus Navy, which will be the only game on this week, of course. But before we dive into our predictions for Army versus Navy, the 12-team playoff bracket has been set up. We are going to recap some championship games from last weekend. 3 incredible games. Go watch the highlights to all 3 of them if you haven't seen them. Was an amazing weekend for college football. The 12-team playoffs is set. We are going to dive into the bracket, recap last week's games, talk about our, future predictions for next week's show. It's going to be a good episode. And, of course, Lennon indicating with that jersey a couple of head coaching hires and one being, the more significant compared to the other, but we could quickly talk about, some bowl games, because with the college football playoffs being announced, there was some bowl games, and the bowl game that stood out to me, unsurprisingly, was Florida versus Tulane, and I think this has the chance to be a tremendous bowl game. You guys know me. I love both running backs on both teams. Mekhi Hughes versus Montreal Johnson is going to bang. It's going to be a great game. But, Lennon, what are your thoughts on the Gators matchup against Tulane in a couple of weeks?
I wanted to play Georgia Tech or Michigan, but Tulane is a good matchup, too. They're 9-4. They're a really good team. This is a chance for Florida to go out and cap off an 8-5 season. And beat a team who was projected to be in the top 25 at the beginning of the year, too. So it's going to be interesting. If I wasn't going to North Carolina this weekend, I would probably think about going to the game. But I want to stay at home and watch it along with the playoff games, too. So I'm excited for that one. But it should be a good game. I think Florida's going to win that game, but we'll talk about that more when we get there. But
Have fun courtside tickets for basketball. You're so lucky.
Oh, dude, I know. I count my blessings every day, bro. You have no idea.
Moving on to, we'll just go around the room. Next is the Pop-Tart Bowl between Iowa State and Miami. Now, the Hurricanes were realistically, I would call them the second team out of the playoffs. And they get rewarded with a pretty good bowl game, but considering where they were heading into that last game of the season against Syracuse, it's not where they want to be, Mike, but they'll take the matchup against Iowa State, who has struggled in the month of November.
Yeah. It should be at least a good enough game where Miami can maybe get some good players out of, like, foot players and players out of high school to maybe keep us where we are and propel us into the playoffs next year, hopefully.
Thinking the strategy right now for Miami is that Cam Ward plays.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of alarming if he didn't. I feel like, especially with those 2 losses down the stretch, he wants to play this game and prove to himself that he can be a top 3 pick in this year's draft. Right now, it is the Raiders who have the number 1 pick, and they're rolling out Desmond Ridder this week. We know they're going to be drafting a quarterback. And again, we'll talk about our NFL draft predictions in March when we do our official mock draft. But you got to expect that quarterbacks are going to be going in at least 3 of the first 5 picks as things stay right now. But of course, there's still 4 weeks left in the NFL season, so a lot is also to be dissected. As for Boston College, they're going to get murdered. I'm just going to say that right now. But they're playing Nebraska, and, but realistically, even though Nebraska was once upon a time deemed to be the team to beat in the Big Ten, they just simply weren't. And they kind of fell off midway through October. But we got to remember, Boston College, they too started off strong. They were ranked 24. They lost 1 possession to Missouri. And then, as you've stated multiple times, Michael, it seemed like the writing was on the wall after they lost to Louisville. And since then, they ended the season strong. They beat North Carolina and Pitt. But, those are kind of ACC teams that were also struggling late in the year. So, what would you expect Boston College to play against a team that they haven't played against since a very long time ago? I think this is Boston College and Nebraska's first matchup since like the 60s or something like that. It's been a while since both these programs have played against each other.
Yeah, I mean, Boston College, I think this might be another Louisville game where Boston College pulls out ahead, and then Nebraska's like, why the hell are we losing to this team? And then just pulls ahead. Second half, they just go up 40 points.
40? That seems a bit too.
They don't go up 40, but it's 20-20, and then it becomes 20-40.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Wow. I mean, it's gonna be brutal. That game will be played in Yankee Stadium. And again, we're just previewing, I guess, our team's bowl games whenever Drew comes on for a future episode. Hopefully we could talk about the South Florida bowl game as well. But we'll go way more in depth with these bowl game predictions heading into next week and whatnot. But for now, it's time to recap the cinema that was last weekend, and we got 3 games to talk about here. The first one will go in order of how they ended, and no problem for Georgia. And this is very alarming that Texas couldn't pull away, even though Georgia was playing their backup quarterback for the entire second half.
Yeah, I'm honestly speechless, really, because I get it to Georgia, and I get Kirby has so many good backups, but my jaw was on the floor watching their first drive out of halftime, and this kid who's never touched a ball outside of being up by 50 go down the field his first drive in the SEC championship game against a really good Texas defense and scored a touchdown. And then he made some mistakes, and then Quinn Ewers made some mistakes. And they let Carson Beck with the broken hand or arm give the ball off. That whole play was just stupid. It was a great game. I figured it would be. I'm glad we got the rematch. I knew Texas wasn't going to get blown out again. I was kind of hoping they would win, but that's okay. I didn't. I went. Was I 3-3? I was 3-3 this weekend. It was not bad, but it was a great game, man. I was honestly speechless again. I was like, oh my god, but it happens. Georgia won't make it past the first round, or second round, but it's all right. Great game though. Texas
predictions. Mike and I were both 5-1.
Oof. Yeah, I went 3-3.
So, hey, I resetted
this
record just for you to catch up, and you aren't catching up.
Yeah, it's all right.
I personally thought this game was great from beginning to end. It didn't feel like, even when it was low scoring in the first half, you knew it was going to be a defensive struggle. You kind of knew, even though it was a 6-0 lead at halftime or whatever it was, you knew the scoring was going to eventually pick up. That's exactly what happened. Now, unfortunately, it was Trevor Etienne who blew the doors open for Georgia to kind of take advantage of the ground game. But overall, Georgia, their defense played up to the task. Quinn Ewers made a lot of mistakes. Georgia's defense picked up on that. They are one of the top defenses in the nation for a reason, and ultimately it led to Texas, the more experienced team in this situation, with Georgia playing a backup, could they win with their backs against the wall? And this is 2 losses to this Bulldogs team. That's gonna sting. That's really gonna sting, and that's gonna haunt them moving forward.
Yeah, but my question is, knowing what Haynes King and Georgia Tech did to Georgia the week prior, should Texas have started Arch Manning maybe to give them a little more flexibility to run the game? And should Texas think about starting Arch Manning against Clemson in the first round of the playoffs?
No, because Quinn Ewers, I say no, because Quinn Ewers led you to this point. Yeah, Manning filled in for a couple of games. They were against UTEP and another really bad school.
No.
Manning's doing good, but he has not played competition like Quinn Ewers has. Now, Ewers has made mistakes, especially against these top-ranked teams, which is weird because, I mean, I guess Michigan didn't end up being tremendous this year, but he played great against Michigan. So that was my belief that he was going to have such a strong year. And the fact that he threw a combined, 5 picks this year against Georgia, that's pretty alarming. But I do think at the end of the day, you got to start him simply because, he is the guy that led you to where you are at the moment. So I think out of respect and knowing that this is going to be his last season, I feel like you have no choice but to start him. I don't know if that's just me who's thinking that, but I think you got to start Ewers just out of respect of where he's led you.
I mean, to me, the only reason you would start Arch Manning is to get his foot in the door before next season.
Yeah.
That's my reasoning.
But you're already in a do or die scenario in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Do you want to try something new? I mean, it's the risk you take, but
Yeah. Sometimes backups turn out to be superstars, but I guess that's just in games.
Brock.
Mhm.
We love Brock Purdy. Anyways,
You
on
look-
to
Beck got the same freaking injury.
yeah, I know. Beck got hurt, and he played lights out that backup quarterback. I mean, he did throw the interception late.
Yeah.
That I thought was the beginning of the end for Georgia because that was just such a huge momentum swing. But yeah, man, Texas, they just could not take advantage of scoring. That was a massive problem for them. They got turnovers, they got defensive stops, especially in the first half. Injured Carson Beck on a last play of the half Hail Mary for crying out loud. And just can't win the game. That's brutal. Luckily, they weren't affected too bad. They realistically dropped from 2 to 5. So that's not the worst that could have happened. But, I mean, the committee really could have slammed the door on him and put him 6th or 7th. So they kind of got lucky.
Georgia and Texas flip-flop.
Yep. Georgia now heading into the playoffs as the 2. They will get a bye, whereas Texas will now have to play in the round of, I'll just call it the first round. I was going to say the round of 12, but I don't know how else you call it. This game was also insane. This was the game that I had the most attention to. And, Oregon's up 3 possessions. I'm thinking, okay, realistically, this game is over. And then Penn State scores 2 straight touchdowns, and they keep it close the rest of the way. But this game came down to who was more ready to play. And Dylan Gabriel threw for 4 touchdowns. He was efficient. I think Oregon scored on the first 3 possessions or something like that. I mean, the offense was firing on all cylinders, and they definitely deserved this win over Penn State.
Yeah, and credit to Penn State for going toe-to-toe with Oregon. I think that was the first half of that game was the highest scoring Big Ten championship game in history, I do believe. Because it's usually like a team like Ohio State or Michigan versus like Iowa and Nebraska, or these teams from the Big Ten West. But now you got powerhouses. Now Oregon's there. Oregon's probably, or they've been the hottest team all season, but now going into the playoffs, this is Oregon's to lose. I think we all can say that. But yeah, I couldn't pick. I wanted to pick Penn State. I knew it would be close, but I couldn't pick against the Ducks again. That's hence why I picked Oregon. And I was rooting for Penn State. I was, but as soon as Drew Aller played amazing until he threw that last interception. I was like, okay.
Until he threw the last interception, but when you play flawless all game, you're bound to make one mistake in that scenario. Pocket collapse. He just had to get rid of it, and it resulted in an interception. But overall, Aller impressed me, and I definitely think if he commits to the draft, they'll look at this game and say, wow, he really does have potential. We were very skeptical of Drew Aller after that Ohio State game. Even though Penn State lost, I think now we can take Penn State seriously heading into the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Aller throwing for 226 and 3 touchdowns with a QB rating of 81.8. That's pretty good despite the 2 picks.
Yeah. This game was good. This game kind of decided who was really going to be the number 1 seed going into the playoffs. I mean, and Penn State did come up to like they almost like did what they had to do to show that they deserve to be in that Big Ten championship and the playoffs.
It was a great game, and unfortunately, why this game wasn't on at 1 o'clock, I have no idea. We could have had an amazing 3 straight string of games, but ladies and gentlemen, the Mustang has been put on halt. Clemson on the road, 34-31 with a game-winning field goal. And guys, Cade Kubalik, just like Drew Aller, a lot of suspicion about him coming into this game. And Kubalik showed the haters wrong. 4 touchdowns, no picks, got the win, led the team on a game-winning drive. But it wasn't all that easy for Clemson. Dominated in the first half, let SMU score 2 late touchdowns in the fourth to tie the game. They gave up a game-tying 2-point conversion. You're thinking, oh my God, here comes another overtime. Clemson's going to blow this. Mm-hmm. And then this kicker, who I believe is a junior, 56-yard bomb to win the game for Clemson as time expires. And they win the ACC. I mean, we were convinced less than 3 weeks ago, Clemson, they lost to South Carolina. They're borderline fraudulent. The ACC is Miami and SMU's to lose, in which it ended up being true. Clemson gets lucky, and they sneak in as the 12th team. Incredibly enough, this win put them in the playoffs. And I agree with the committee on that one, but what do you guys think?
I mean, it's Clemson is hard because they're not a bad team by any means. They have a ton of talent, but it's just Dabo does it the old school way, and where he doesn't really use the transfer portal that much. And if he does use NIL, it's not a lot, and it's still continued to prove to work. I mean, they won another ACC championship game. I think they've won everyone. So starting in 2017, they've won 8 out of the last 9 or something like that. Insane. But this game, we learned a lot about Clemson and we learned a lot about SMU, right? Because SMU to be down by however it was it 31? No, was it 31-14 or 24-14 maybe?
It was 24-14, yeah.
24-14, and then to come back and literally was a kick return away from taking this game to overtime, where they probably would have won if the game went to overtime. Once that Clemson got a really good kick return, and after that I was like, oh, well, now it's interesting. And then the kicker hit a 56-yard freaking dart. That's probably good from 6. That thing was it was
long gone. It clearly
such a good kick.
That's the post. That one was probably going to be good for about 61-62.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. NFL scouts taking notice. All these college kids starting to hit from the late 50s. That's easy
that's
for
what you need. I mean,
yeah.
NFL scouts.
That's really the only way you're going to get drafted nowadays is if you can hit from long range.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in the NFL, where you get all these NFL. But SMU, good for them. They played hard. They showed they have a lot of fight in that team. Clemson, Dabo saying the old way still works for now. We'll see how they do against Texas. I think that's going to be closer than a lot of you people think, but we'll talk about that next week or the few weeks to come. But we learned a lot about both of them from that game. At least I did. I don't know about you guys.
I learned a lot to not underestimate Clemson's offense as much as I was going to, but I also realized how quickly SMU can adapt. This showed that they were getting creamed. How do we fix this issue? And they were clicking on offense, and now that team belongs to Kevin Jennings. It was announced this morning that Preston Stone is going to hit the transfer portal. So there is zero QB competition for Jennings heading into his senior year next year. So SMU should continue to pretty much ride most of the same roster, and I think they're in for another successful season. I don't know if they'll win the ACC next year. They came so close. Them in Texas in their first years trying to play spoiler. How interesting. But I think SMU is going to learn a lot from this, and I think they are going to have a very, very tight contest against Penn State. Both teams are going to be pissed off after losing heartbreakers. So Penn State and SMU, it could be a war. That's probably my second favorite game I'm looking forward to besides Tennessee and Ohio State. I think that could be a really close one.
Yeah,
definitely.
So, as we talked, we kind of pretty much brought it up. We will quickly show you guys the college football picture officially. This is what it looks like. So we have Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona State getting the bye weeks, heading into the quarterfinals. And as we mentioned, the only matchup we haven't even brought up yet is Indiana and Notre Dame. And again, we'll give our official predictions for these games in the coming weeks. But the obvious question is, does SMU belong in the tournament over Alabama or Miami? I'm going to say yes. If they did not make that game against Clemson close, they continue to get their face pounded in and they ended up losing by 40, absolutely put Alabama or Miami in that situation. But because they battled back, they showed adversity, and they were essentially a missed field goal from forcing overtime, the game they were losing 2 possessions in with about 7 minutes left. I think that showed that SMU deserved that. I guess technically Clemson got the last spot, so second to last spot. I think the Mustangs deserved every bit of it. They were also leading the ACC for the majority of the season, so it would have felt weird to punish them for playing in a conference championship game.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it gets interesting for me because I'm going to start by saying I agree SMU should have got in over Alabama. I agree 100%. I think the committee got it right for the first time ever. I agree with the 4 first-round buys and everything else in between. But again, you have to look because SMU plays in the ACC. I'm going to use my SEC bias here. Bama is 9-3, correct. If they didn't lose to Oklahoma and Vandy, now it's a different story. Then you got, okay, Bama's one loss would be to Tennessee, who's the 9th seed. But Bama did not control their own destiny. They lost. SMU, like I said, if they continue to get pounded by Clemson, they probably wouldn't have gotten in. They fought hard. Like you said, literally missed a field goal away from taking them to overtime. I mean, as much as I want the SEC in there, and I'm kind of pissed it's Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas, but I think the committee got it right. SMU, I would put SMU in just simply because of, well, I guess Bama has, it's just, if it's down to the losses, then SMU has what, 2 losses?
2 total.
2 pretty close
3
losses, right? BYU
and then we talked about this too after the Alabama-Oklahoma game, but that was the game we kind of knew, like, even if they're a playoff team, how far are they going? I mean, and again, if you lose like on a last-second field goal to Oklahoma, you have a gripe. No, you got absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one thing if, they only lost to, let's say, Vanderbilt in that shootout. I think you have a debate. I forgot the third team they lost
Tennessee.
to. Tennessee, that's right. I mean, they lost that game pretty handily, but it was close for the most part, so it was kind of like whatever. But
that Oklahoma loss is what did them.
That Oklahoma loss did them in dearly. And yes, realistically, an SEC team should always make it in over an ACC team. Realistically, that's probably true. But I mean, at the same time, you got to give it to the team that has earned it, not based off of what we've done in previous years.
But again, as Alabama has 3 wins against the top 25, including number 2 Georgia.
and SMU
SMU
had
just
0
not
wins. Or
zero
they
wins.
only
It's
had, I
not
think,
SMU.
2 top 25 wins, and one of them was against Pitt. And the other one, I forgot what the other one was, but
I don't think they have any top 20. Maybe one. Maybe Pitt
well,
was
they
on
beat Pitt when they were undefeated,
Yeah,
so that's
and then
one.
they lost to BYU, I do believe, and Clemson. So,
Right.
but I don't know. I like Jackson Dart's idea, and I mean he wanted Ole Miss to play Alabama, but why not have a one-off game? Ole Miss versus Alabama. Let's go. Winner gets the finals. But they should start doing something like that. I don't know. That's just me.
Ole
But
Miss is another team that missed out. I'm focusing on like Alabama and Miami were realistically like the top 2 teams that missed.
South
Damn,
Carolina
Ole Miss
was
is there
close right
too.
there.
That's crazy.
South Carolina was there.
South
Who else
Carolina
was there?
3 team out.
I don't know. I don't know. South Carolina would, I guess, be on that list, but I wouldn't put them ahead of Alabama, Miami, or Ole Miss.
It's just stupid that Alabama's not in it because they didn't have a good enough conference record to play in the championship game. Had nothing to do with the overall record. It was the conference record that made them get out the playoffs. It wasn't their overall record. That's what I'm.
And that's you could say the same thing about SMU. I mean, God, they were undefeated against the ACC all year until they played Clemson. I mean,
yeah,
that's the main thing that pisses me off is that the Miami didn't get in because of their conference record, not the overall record. That's the main thing.
And I think anyone with a brain would tell you, even if Clemson won that ACC championship game, I could say, and again, I don't know about Alabama because they had 3 losses, but I could say pretty confidently Miami deserved it over Clemson.
I think so.
I'll say that for what it is.
You can call me biased all you want, but
I don't know.
You can't call
I
him
agree
biased.
with
He's
you.
a BC fan of Florida more than
I agree with you. I think
And
Miami
I'm a
definitely
Miami
should have
fan,
made it
but,
over
like,
Clemson, but Clemson won the game, so you got to reward them. It's weird how they low-key need to fix it. I'm just realizing this now. I get why it's against conference record, but then it screws up the playoffs a little bit. Like Miami, Texas would be a banger. Miami versus Penn State would be great, and you could still only bump SMU down to the 12 seed. You could have the Battle of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I feel like Miami. I don't think Alabama got screwed. I feel like if anyone got screwed, it's probably Miami. But oh well, they could have fun in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Oh, sad.
It should be an easy win though. So
Be an easy win, but what does it matter?
Yeah.
you get your first 10-win season for the first time since frickin' Michael Irvin was there. So
What?
I know I do like, or I guess they're not punishing you for playing in the conference championship game with putting SMU in there. So that's another thing that I was curious about because then SMU's argument is if they put Bama in, well, we had to play a conference championship game. Well, Bama didn't, right? So you got that. So I like that they didn't hold playing or losing your conference championship against anybody. So
I just love how Clemson winning just caused so much chaos. This would have been easy. If SMU won, they'd probably be ranked, what, 8th, 9th?
maybe.
You could put them somewhere between,
Clemson will
definitely
be
under
out for
Notre
sure.
Dame, probably ahead of Ohio
Yeah.
State since they had 2 losses.
Yeah, no, if SMU had won, Clemson's out, and then either Bama or Miami gets the last spot. So Clemson
That would have
winning
been
or
Alabama, and that would have annoyed me too. I think Miami was just overall better than Alabama, but that's just me. I mean, you talk about Alabama losing 2 one-possession games. Miami literally also lost 2 one-possession games.
Yeah.
Against 2 teams that were above 500. So take that as you will.
And like you want to talk about, we lost to Georgia Tech and Syracuse. Not to mention Syracuse quarterback had the most yards of any quarterback in the freaking college football this year, and Georgia Tech really brought Georgia to an 8-time overtime.
You knew Georgia Tech was going to be one of the most underrated teams, and we also knew that Kyle McCord was going to be great. And Drew was kind of laughing at me when I said this earlier in the year, but I said Kyle McCord will have the biggest impact in the transfer portal. Now it obviously ended up being Cam Ward, but I put McCord at the top 3 or 5 in that conversation. So, I mean, really, outside that 4 interception performance against Pitt, he really had a good season.
Like,
But-
I'm not mad at who's in it.
Like,
I
it's
think everyone who's
it's
in it, like,
understandable.
yeah, everyone who's in it, I would say deserves it, but there's other teams that didn't make it that deserve it, I think, more than the teams that are in it. That makes sense.
Clemson winning just caused chaos.
Yeah.
That just screwed everything up. Because it was going to be the great Alabama-Miami debate, and then Clemson decided to win. You can't punish SMU for playing in a bowl game. They kept it close the whole game. So it's like,
Yeah.
and they have 2 losses. So it's like, what do you do? I don't know. I think the committee got it right, but definitely Clemson winning could have made this a better bracket. It's already a great bracket, but it could have been a spectacular one if Miami or Alabama got that 12th spot. Also, last thing before we move on to our Army-Navy prediction, Arizona State picking up a bye week. That's deserving, but why didn't Notre Dame get a bye week? Because I felt like Notre Dame probably should have got instead.
That's why.
They're not in a conference.
The conference.
Makes sense.
They're
That's what I was
independent.
thinking. That's what I was
Would be
thinking.
why they're not in a conference. They're in independence, and the 4 spots are for the 4 highest conference champions.
Yeah, bro. SMU could have gotten a bye week. Oh, that's
Yeah.
brutal. Arizona State gets the bye week because SMU lost. Oh, no.
Just so that they should
Whoever wins Tennessee, Ohio State is going to be that game versus Oregon is going to be amazing too. And then SMU Penn State should be
Oregon,
good.
Ohio State
That's
round
what I'm
2.
saying. Yeah.
That's so early in the year.
saying.
That's so early
It's-
in the bracket.
I
That's
want
Yeah.
I want a rematch between them, but like in the quarterfinals, I would like really.
I want the national championship.
I think if I'm going to say this right now, Notre Dame, don't let them get hot. I think if Notre Dame beats Indiana, them and Georgia, especially if Beck plays. Right now, Beck is projected not to, but if he does, a healthy Georgia team against a healthy Notre Dame team would be insanely competitive.
Hey, don't sleep on Indiana.
I'm not, and that's why we're doing these predictions next week.
Yeah.
But
I know who I'm going to pick for.
I think I
All but
know who
one.
I'm going to pick for all the games
Yeah,
too, but
yeah.
I'm not
I'm all
gonna,
but-
I'm not
all
going to
but-
say nothing.
No, me either. I'm all but one. All but one.
I think they should change the bye weeks though. The top 4 conference winners getting a bye week. I think it should just straight up go off of like just rating.
Why not just have the top 2?
Yeah.
Because you look at
I mean,
Oregon and Georgia, and they're
yeah.
like, okay, those are reasonable bye weeks. Now, Boise State only has 1 loss, so I guess that one's understandable. But outside of
They're also in
Ashton
the
Jetty,
in the
they're
West.
not outstandingly great. And yeah, Arizona State absolutely destroyed their opponent this past weekend, and they earned that spot because of SMU's loss. But also, it's like, well, Arizona State, no one really gave them national credit until they were 7-2.
Yeah.
And who would they beat? BYU?
BYU.
That was kind of like, oh, we should take them seriously. A team getting a bye week when they were just getting media recognition like 3-4 weeks ago. I don't know. It's
Even-
interesting.
Even Boise State to me is like I said last week. Yeah, the Mountain West has UNLV, but besides Boise State and UNLV, they don't really have much. So Boise State having
Utah and Colorado
but they
State.
didn't do that.
Wow.
I'm just like, it's just like Boise State compared to like Ohio State.
I know.
Texas.
It's weird. It is
All the other
weird.
teams there, Penn State, like them getting the bye week.
I feel like the bye week should be based off rating, but
Like to be honest with you, the next team Boise State's gonna verse, be it Penn State or SMU, I don't think they're gonna put up that much of a fight.
the defense is solid.
You-
But I
if
don't
you
think-
stop Genty,
But
they
but
can't
if
do
you stop
anything.
Genty, then their offense is absolutely fried. Like they are going to be in trouble. I don't know. It will be interesting, and that's why we wanted to show the bracket so we could give our thoughts and opinions on it. What do we think? What maybe they could improve on next year? We'll get into our predictions next week. It should be a great college football playoff, though. I'm excited for it. I'm just glad it's not 4 teams.
Yeah.
That's another reason why until this, I guess technically last year is when I really got into college football, but I hated the 4 teams. I felt like that was too little. And I think 12 teams is perfect. But now the seeding needs to potentially be fixed. The seeding needs to be fixed. But it's not awful.
They are going to change it next year. I've heard they're going to fix different things to this. And like, let's say 4 teams. You want to watch these 4 teams in the playoffs? You want to watch Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona in a 4-team playoff?
I mean, it's Oregon. It's going to be Oregon versus Georgia anyway. Let's be real. But at least this time we get a little bit of chaos, maybe. So
I want this to be like a March Madness feel where, even if Georgia does beat Boise State in the semifinals, like, oh my God, it's a 1-possession game. Like, I want this to bring a March Madness feel to college football, which is what I think they're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited
for every single bowl team, like bowl eligible team playing the tournament. That would be wild.
They should do like a you know how the March Madness has the NIT, the not in tournament, where they do anybody who didn't make the big dance plays a playoff similar style. They should do that too. Like from 13 to 25 should all freaking go for like a NIT or something like that. Be really interesting. Just all the bowl games count as playoff game, except the 12 goes for the natty, and then you have separate. I don't know. I don't want to make it too much like March Madness, but it's going to be interesting for sure.
Be interesting, and again, predictions coming next week. Speaking of predictions, this week, well, we only got 1 game, which means we only have 2 uniforms to choose for Jersey of the Week. This one, now listen, Navy's is very good, but this Army had this on lock for 3 weeks. We knew when these jerseys dropped 3 weeks ago, we knew Army was winning Jersey of the Week. I mean, amazing looking helmets, black jerseys with kind of gray lettering. Great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love the kind of like the speckled kind of colors on the jersey and the helmet too. Yeah, I don't know the significance of the clover there. Maybe somebody else can, but I'm sure I know it's something to do with Army, but I don't really know the significance behind it. But overall, it's freaking Army Navy always produce great uniform matchups. Like go back and look at the years past, they look great, and this game should be really good too. Similar offenses, one 1,000 times better than the other, but that's just cool. It's sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I like these jerseys. The speckle gives it that camo-ish feel to me, to where it's like, Army's like that the camo, that speckle gives it that like camo feel to me, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Now on to the predictions. Now both these teams will be in bowl games, and technically speaking, Army just won the American Championship. They beat Tulane last Friday. Navy will be in a bowl game, but I know since they lost to Notre Dame, they began to struggle a little bit, but they still had a pretty successful season. This game will be played at the horrendous stadium known as FedEx Field in Washington, Maryland. Gillette Stadium is better. Bring it back. Anyways, tremendous. They can't go back to back, but they can venture out besides like Philadelphia and like Washington.
Play in fucking Lincoln Financial Field.
They do. Well, they did. Yeah, they went there 2 years ago.
Okay, we'll go back.
It needs to go back to Philadelphia where it's been for thousands or forever, and then they started hopping around. So that's my take on that.
Lame.
Hey, I hate Philly.
Tradition's tradition.
Tradition is
I
tradition.
understand.
Philadelphia was like our biggest state before like New York became big. Legit.
Listen, it doesn't matter where they play. These two always put on a great show whenever they play each other. Navy plays Oklahoma in the Armed Forces Bowl. That's their bowl matchup for Navy. I don't know who Army plays yet, but Navy plays Oklahoma. But they got focused on this one first. So
I think it's tremendous that these two teams play like an extra game every year. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's cool that, they're keeping the 100 and what year tradition alive now. I mean, it's insane. They've been playing each other since the 1800s, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Do you now Army, Navy, and Air Force play each other every year, and the person with the best record versus the three of them get a special trophy? Do you know what that trophy is called?
No.
The Commander-in-Chief's trophy.
Ooh.
So I do believe Army and Navy both beat Air Force this year. So this
Air Force was not good this year.
Air Force hasn't been good in a while, but it's cool. It's in the College Football Hall of Fame. If you guys ever in Atlanta, you should check that out. It's pretty sweet. But so I do believe Army and Navy will play for that trophy again. And listen, early on in the year, Navy looked really good. They lost to Notre Dame, and they kind of spun out of control. Army looked really good, lost to Notre Dame, continued to look really good. I think it'll be a close game, but I gotta stick with my roots and go with the Black Knights in this one.
I'm gonna go with Army as well. You guys know that Bryson Daly is one of my favorite quarterbacks in college football. The guy has like one less rushing touchdown than Genty has. Yeah, where's Bryson Daly in your freaking Heisman Trophy combos anyways? It's not the point. The point is both of these run offenses are great, but Bryson Daly led this team to victory last year against Navy. He's going to do the same this year. Bryson Daly is just such a fun player to watch. This rushing attack for Army is the best it's been in a while. In a close game, give me Army 16-10.
Yeah, I still got Army. I mean, they went to the game, but they first UAB, yeah. I mean, UAB is not good, but Army just kind of like that defense of theirs. To me, is like, their defense is actually like really good at stopping the run and the pass. So I have Army winning this like 24-10.
Ooh, you think 2-possession game?
Yeah.
Interesting.
The defensive Army is very underrated.
Yeah, it definitely is. Army also has one of the best sceneries in all of college football too. That opening for the Tulane game, oh my god, that thing is beautiful, man. Army's got an amazing campus, and it's so. I'm just love to see Army at 11-1. That's just so cool, man.
We should have went.
What?
Last week.
Last week. We could have.
I love Tulane. I love Mekhi Hughes. Anyways. I didn't think about that till right now. I'm like, the Save's not too far from your place. No, Friday night, we just stay there Saturday, head back Sunday. We could have done it. that would have been a great vlog for the channel, wouldn't it have been? Oh, my God. But neither here nor there. I know Army might be a little exhausted where Navy had the bye week, but I don't think that's going to matter too much in the grand scheme of things. Teams are typically used to playing on 1-week schedules anyway. So give me Army. Again, 1-possession game. Mike's the only one going 2-possession game. That's interesting. We shall see what happens Saturday. Kickoff at 3:30, as always, on CBS. So we're going to wrap up shortly here. We have 2 head coaches and 1 transfer portal. And ladies and gentlemen, heading into this podcast, Mike and I were hoping that we were the first ones to hopefully talk about the Stews, considering it only happened an hour ago. A big blockbuster occurred in college football this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, 6-time Super Bowl winner Bill Belichick signs a 3-year, $30 million contract to be the new head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. And this will begin right after the Fenway Bowl against UConn. He's going to be coming right on in, and he is going to put this team to work. And my first thought is, regardless of, is he going to get another NFL position? Regardless of that, the 3-year deal is crazy.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to sign a 1-year prove-it deal, and if North Carolina got a good bowl game or got into the college football playoffs, he was going to leave for the NFL. Maybe there's an opt-out in that contract. I have no idea. But this is ginormous for the college football landscape.
Yeah, that's crazy. Insane. I mean, North Carolina getting a coach like Bill Belichick. And something else I just realized, Drake May went to North Carolina.
Yeah.
So you have a guy who went from North Carolina to the Patriots and a guy who went from the Patriots to North Carolina.
It's weird how that works.
Yeah. Listen, before I'm a Giants fan, so obviously I have the 2 beautiful Super Bowl wins against that bastard right there. No, I'm just kidding. No, he's great. He's a really good coach. I'm very interested to see how this works. I mean, honestly speaking, there is really nobody better in college. Nobody in college right now who I thought was better to take the job at UNC. I like this. This is interesting. Like our friend said in the main group chat, this is either going to work or set North Carolina back even further. So at this point, they've never really been a football school. I mean, they've always been a basketball. They're my favorite college basketball team. But I do follow the football team for fun. But I like this move. I think it's interesting. I hope he does good. I want maybe get both Florida and North Carolina heading in the right direction in football too. So I don't know. I like this move. It's definitely. I'm not surprised once I heard they started talking, but it's definitely interesting to me how they got, especially the 3-year deal too. But who knows? We'll see. They got to play another basketball school in Connecticut in the Fenway Bowl, so should be interesting.
Now, what Boston Sports Radio was saying yesterday, they were saying about how, as we are getting rated at the moment. Thank you, Chandler Jones. What Boston Sports Radio was saying yesterday was that Belichick was in this for the coaching position. He wasn't in it for the money. He wasn't in it for the coaching experience. He was in it because he wanted to be a head coach and to prove himself one last time at the NFL level. But again, a 3-year deal, that's quite a long time for someone in his early 70s. I think North Carolina is going to have a really good season next year. They're going to have Max Johnson back to being healthy, so their starting QB won't go down, hopefully. Again, we kind of knew Carolina was screwed when he went down with that injury against Minnesota and they lost. But overall, I think it's a pretty good hire for next year. The next 2 years after that, I don't know how well Belichick's going to really do, but definitely this is going to help out the recruit game. And he got hired at the perfect time, right when the transfer portal opens. North Carolina, they could become the new Colorado in the sense of a lot of media coverage. A lot of players are going to want to commit there, and they could be a powerhouse. And realistically, in the ACC, the only competition you have is Miami, who is losing Cam Ward, SMU, and Xavier Respro. SMU, who roster will mostly stay intact, but you never know. A lot of those juniors, they might think, oh, crap, this was a one like good year thing. I'm going to go declare for the draft. And Clemson, who we were saying was pretty much a win or a loss against SMU away from not even making the playoffs. So realistically, there's not a great amount of competition in the ACC. So Belichick's joining at the right time, and I think at least next year for UNC, they're going to succeed well. I expect no more than at least 9 or 10 wins.
I hope so.
It's like the Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, wow. Bill O'Brien, in fact, only less than 7-5. You know, Bill O'Brien's proof that, hey, not like every former NFL coach is amazing, but Belichick is also miles ahead than Bill O'Brien ever was. So you never know.
I'm curious to see because he's never had to deal with NIL and the transfer portal, really. So I want to see how he handles that. I do think you're right, Grant, that people are going to want to play for him because who wouldn't want to play for a 6-time Super Bowl champion, even if Tom Brady gave him all of them, or 5 of them. But Sorry, I hate the Patriots. It's just in me how it is. But I'm
Go
curious.
for it. You have a Jaguars, 49ers, and Seahawks fan in the room, so Patriots slander is allowed here.
Yes.
Good, but I want him to do good. I really want him to do good. Maybe I'll like him even more now that he's coaching my second favorite football team. So I want to see how it does. I think North Carolina will be okay though, and plus it's a beautiful campus. So all you recruits, you need to go walk it and check it out. But come to Florida first. If you don't want to live in Gainesville, you can go to Chapel Hill. But seriously, check it out. It's an amazing.
That's not Hill exists.
Chapel Hill clears, buddy. I'm sorry.
Anyone? Oh man,
I've never been though. I don't know. I can't really.
we could. I just realized if Boston College plays North Carolina next year, it's going to be North Carolina.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be next week. But yeah,
Well,
we
talked
mentioned
about Belichick.
UConn was playing North Carolina.
So you
He will
mentioned-
not be coaching in that game, though.
Obviously.
Unfortunately,
But I'm saying it's
the
basically
offensive coordinator is gonna take
two
over the play
basketball
calls.
schools playing each other
Yeah, Lennon
in
mentioned
a football
Yeah.
game at a baseball field.
Yeah, at Fenway Park. That's just great, man. That's awesome. It's funny how sports work. And
that. That is,
Because-
isn't it?
two successful basketball programs who haven't really been good at football playing in a bottom of the AL East team's stadium. So
The bottom. Hey, buddy, the Blue Jays exist. Anyways,
that's true. That's
and the
true.
Rays don't even have a stadium. Anyways, there's Bill
They
Belichick
had
to
one,
North
it's just
Carolina.
destroyed.
And we had another head coaching hire. This one happened back on Sunday. But UNLV head coach Barry Odom, he's jumping ship to Purdue. This one's interesting because Purdue sucked. They went
So
1-10
Future Yankey,
this
Kyle.
year.
Future Yankee. Future
And
Yankee.
They really sucked. Now, granted, they almost beat Illinois in overtime. They had a couple of close finishes. Realistically, they were a 1-win team disguised as like a 3-win team, but that still sucks. Odom has coaching experience. He's been a head coach every year since 2019, and I think he's going to lead this Purdue team in the right direction. I'm going to say if Purdue's recruiting can really fix that defense and wide receiver core, I'll go 5 to 7 wins for Purdue next year.
They were
You
1
think
and
that's
11.
too generous?
They were literally 1 and 11. They were awful.
What do you guys
I
think?
don't think 5 and 7, but
I think 3 wins.
Three?
3 or 4 wins.
3 or 4.
But you gotta remember, UNLV was terrible before they hired this
Yeah.
guy, and then he just brought them to a conference championship game. So
Yeah, I think 5 and 7 is a
This
good
team lost
thing.
every game 70-7. That's all right. They're still chilling.
Yeah,
well, they
so-
got
so
killed by
did-
Notre Dame,
so did-
66
Yeah,
to
but I
7.
mean, so did UNLV though. They lost like 70 in every game. They got this guy and they got conference championship. I think it'll bring Purdue to a conference championship.
No.
It'll help make them like decent to get wins and everything. I think 5 and 7 or even 6 and 6 could even do.
Yeah, get another basketball. It's just a basketball school field final few minutes of this episode. Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised he left UNLV, but not really, because who the heck wants to live in Las Vegas? But also, who wants to live in Indiana? So who knows? Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking more 5 and 7, 6 and 6 too, just because. I mean, Purdue was never really been this year. They were awful, but they've really been kind of okay. I mean, they were
Leading
never,
up to this
great.
year, they've been fine.
yeah, leading up to this year, they were fine. But hey, maybe, who knows? I mean, we saw what he did at UNLV. Maybe he can turn. But I've been with Oregon and USC and all them in the Big Ten. Now the Big Ten just got a lot tougher, so it's going to be maybe hard for him to. But if he can recruit,
Purdue's coming in right out of the gates. They're going to be playing teams like Oregon, like Illinois, Wisconsin. I mean, they are not going to have an easy schedule.
Well, the only problem with this coach is he did lie to his quarterback, the one who transferred from Holy Cross, about the NIL.
okay.
Yeah, well,
Doesn't make him
that
a
is
bad
also
coach.
true.
Doesn't make him a
That,
bad
that,
coach.
that, that's
pretty
more
bad.
on the athletic director, though.
Yeah.
That's not really on the coach. It's more on the athletic director.
Money shouldn't dictate where you go to college anyway. But
But then you should have added NIL.
Bingo.
So,
here we go.
On to our last topic of the day, and this one is transfer portal news. And one that personally shocked me quite a bit, but Tulane redshirt freshman starting quarterback, by the way, Darren Maziah, he transferred this morning to Duke. Maziah will have 3 years left on his eligibility. This is why does Duke need a quarterback? That shocked me. He was a great fit for Tulane. Ty Thompson transferred from Oregon to Tulane, and he ended up being the backup. Now, does Tulane ride it out with Thompson next year, or does Thompson also enter the transfer portal? A lot of questions will be answered about Tulane in this transfer portal, but for Duke, this is a massive improvement over their current quarterback. What was his name? Brown or something like that. It's a better quarterback for sure because as a freshman, he led Tulane to a championship game. But at the end of the day, I mean, when you're going from the American Conference to the ACC, that is an improvement, but not by too much. You're going to be playing much harder competition. And he threw for 2 touchdowns in that game against Army last week. It's just weird how he was the starter, and then now he's transferring less than a week after a playoff game. It's just weird how this transfer portal is working. But
just like you said with SMU, you might have thought this was like a one good year. Maybe I should try something else.
I don't think so because Tulane's coaching staff is actually really decent. But
well, like that, yeah, I don't think they're gonna be. But that's what he could be thinking. You don't know what's going on inside his head.
But what does Duke bring to the table? They were okay this year.
I'm just trying to explain why he left.
Duke was okay this year, but they weren't anything out of this world.
Better than they have been.
Nah, I thought Tulane was better than Duke this year.
Were.
Oh well, Duke was actually. Jeez, Duke actually finished 9-3. Wow, never mind. With an overtime loss to SMU. Okay, this is actually a sneaky good team, maybe.
See the light. You understand what I'm saying now?
And now I see the light data. Look at their schedule. Their only losses being against Georgia Tech, SMU, and Miami.
They should have lost to UConn. They barely won at the end.
Yeah, they did barely beat UConn. I'm seeing that 26-21. Malik Murphy. This is this quarterback's name for Duke. He's a sophomore. So now Murphy can enter the transfer portal. And he could fill the prophecy and commit to Tulane. That would be pretty funny. He's a sophomore, so he's going to be on the market in the transfer portal. We'll see who makes a claim on him. I think so, too. Considering he already threw over 20 touchdowns as a freshman, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, you guys aren't going to believe this, but I hate Duke University with everything.
Well, that's because of basketball.
Well, yeah, but still, as a whole, no. But I got to give credit where credit's due, man. They are their team was really good this year, and I'll give them that. And this is a huge get for them. Their offense just got a hell of a lot scarier, and I don't really like that, but I have to give credit where credit is due. I think that's a good get. I think their quarterback currently, I think he will transfer out, or maybe he'll stay and be a backup. Who knows? I don't. Unless
You're
he
a
believes,
sophomore coming off a 9-3 season, throwing for over 2,000 yards. Why the hell wouldn't you transfer?
Yeah, unless you want to prove loyalty, but I guess that doesn't exist anymore. And then you got
when another quarterback in the transfer portal takes your starting job, that's reasonable. If you're just a bag hunting SOB, well, sue it yourself. You're ruining college football. But if someone in the transfer portal takes your starting job, that's okay. When you do it the Thomas Castellanos way of, I got benched, so I'm transferring, that's lame.
Yeah.
At least with Murphy's sake, crap, they just got a better quarterback at the transfer portal. That's at least a reasonable request to transfer, in my opinion. At least that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's gonna be Army Navy. It's gonna be great, and then it's the playoffs. So y'all need to subscribe and stay tuned.
Subscribe and stay tuned to Fletcher Sports Zone. Make sure you go follow the Campus Gridiron podcast on Instagram. Oh, yeah, we just try to post as frequently as we can. Game alerts throughout the playoffs. Every single playoff game, at least that's the goal. Every single playoff game, no matter how close or how far the score is, we will be posting pretty much every like one possession bowl game or any bowl game that's like featuring highly good teams like Penn State, Iowa State, like both teams ranked inside the top 25. Yeah, I think Miami will win that in a blowout. But
Penn State versus Ohio State, right? Bro, you said Penn State versus Iowa State. That's not the game.
I said Miami.
No, you did not.
You said Miami. I heard Miami.
You said Penn State in there.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I heard him say
anyway, that's not the point. The point is follow Campus Gridiron on Instagram. We type better than we talk, so
that is true.
that'll just be the thing. As Kyle would say, as long as I don't spell the word legend, my spelling isn't too bad.
And also follow King Kyle 611 on Instagram.
Yeah, go follow him on Instagram. Well, we need to get you on one of these damn shows. I've been trying to get you on forever.
After the
poll game. Oh my God. You thought listening to me ramble on about Boston College was bad. Here comes UConn football talk. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Drew is rolling his eyes as we speak. Anyways,
Hope you have a fucking field day on this podcast.
Drew would be like, "Why the hell do you like UConn? I know you're from the state, but blah 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 blah. Their quarterback sucks and this and that."
And then Kyle can shoot back. Why do you like USF, even though you live in Tampa? So there you go.
Anyways,
I only live 10 minutes from UConn. So.
That is true. He lives very close to the school. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Talked about the playoffs, talked about Bill Belichick, talked about Army-Navy, talked about the transfer portal. It was a good episode. Recap last week's games. Next week we'll go further in depth on our predictions. It'll be fun. It's gonna. This is why you watch the podcast, to watch these types of episodes with the breaking news and the breaking down the biggest games. Yeah. Now that we are on Christmas break too for college, no promises, but if I can, we'll be posting clips back on the Instagram page. I know the second week 3 happened, I completely forgot about posting clips on the Instagram page. My bad. College is hard. Well, at least I'm on break. We will go back to at least posting clips on the Instagram. Getting close to, I think, 30 followers. We want to get that up to 50, 100 if we can. So please, again, follow Campus Gridiron. And, hey, you can follow Fletcher Sports on too while you're at it. We collaborate on every post. So go follow Fletcher Sports on 2 for daily Instagram as well. We're dragging on this outro for way too long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Army-Navy this Saturday.